Hey guys, my name is Mike, and I'm an entertainer and an entrepreneur. And in a few moments, I'm going to tell you about an amazing opportunity that's going to change your life. And I say that because it's changed mine. I grew up in a small farming town in the state of Connecticut, and growing up, I was always a dreamer. I used to look out the window, and I would look over the horizon and just imagine other worlds and things like that. And I just started to create these stories. I was probably about 5 years old. So that kind of led to my dream of being in the movies. When I was a teenager, my parents got divorced. I was about 13 years old. And at the same time, I got interested in stand-up comedy. Now, I was too young to go into the clubs, so what I would do instead was perform at parties, family functions, school events. Sometimes the teacher would even have me perform in the classroom. When I was 16 years old, I started my own TV show in the state of Connecticut, and it became a huge hit. And I had a lot of fun doing it. It was some of the greatest thrills of my life. And what was really incredible was to actually be living my dream. Well, I wanted to continue riding that wave and go right to Hollywood, but unfortunately, things went wrong. We lost our home, and this all happened within the same week that I ended my show and I graduated from high school. It just was within a matter of days. My whole life just changed completely. I ended up living 9 months in a motel room, and it was just a horrible, horrible time. I didn't have any money. I couldn't get a car, and I could not get a job. So I was basically in this room for 9 months straight, and I went crazy. I couldn't take it. I became very depressed. Finally, after 9 months, I was finally out of there, and I was ready to restart my life. I still wanted to work in the entertainment business, but I had to get a job. I ended up working at this factory, and I was there for 8 years, and it was horrible. I hated it. They would give like a 25-cent raise and do it maybe once every other year, and usually that's because they were late on the raise. And there was just no way that I was ever going to get anywhere. While I was working there, I did start making movies, but they were independent films. Eventually, I was able to get out of that job. I started working at this warehouse and would end up spending another 8 years at this place. Now, this place I didn't hate as much as the factory, but it still was the same thing. You know, I had always wanted to be successful. I always wanted to make my dreams come true. And I wasn't going to do it working at these dead-end jobs. It just wasn't going to happen. You know, going in working 40 or more hours a week for little pay and never have anything to show for it. It really weighed on me. And I'd have to honestly say, in those 16 years between the two jobs, I just didn't know what happiness was. You know, I just didn't feel it. And I found myself to be miserable and angry all the time. Not too long ago, I actually had something pretty good happen. It was kind of amazing. I actually had a deal with a Hollywood studio that resulted in a lot of money. And it amazed me because I had such bad luck in my life and so many bad things. I was able to pay off all of my debts. I was able to buy my first house. And I really thought that I was on my way. Unfortunately, my house became the money pit and took the last of what I had. That put me back to where I was. In 2012, everything was just kind of rolling along, and then suddenly life just slammed on the brakes, and my life changed within a couple of hours. About 4 years ago, I got a call from my best friend, who I had known for 22 years, which was most of my life. And he told me that he had quit his job. Now, at that time, his mother was dying from cancer, and he was her sole caregiver. I stepped up, and I called my boss, and convinced him to hire my friend as my assistant. One particular day, in 2012, my friend comes up to me and tells me that the bosses at my company want to have a meeting with me to discuss my bad attitude problem. Well, I was stunned by this because it made no sense to me. I had no attitude problem, I didn't have any issues with anybody, and I just could not make any sense of it. A few hours later, my friend comes up to me and makes a confession. He told me that he had been going to the office staff at the end of each day and bad-mouthing me, telling them that I had a bad attitude problem, that he was afraid I was going to get violent and hurt him, that I was unapproachable. Well, the people he told this to went back to the bosses and told them. So they were now left under with this impression that I was this person that I wasn't. When my friend told me this, I was absolutely stunned. I couldn't really make sense out of it at all. This was someone that I considered to be like a brother that I had known for 22 years. He was there through all of my difficult times. He was there the day I lost my home. And yet he would do this. The only thing that the answer that I came up with was that he had told me that he was fearful that his job would be on the line. That with the cuts they were making, he was kind of on the bottom of the totem pole. So my feelings is that he wanted to make me look bad in order to save his own selfish ass. So I got called into the meeting, and it was just complete nonsense. It was nothing but lies. They didn't want to hear anything I had to say. I'd been with this company for 8 years. I had been honest at all times. Didn't matter what I said. They brought me in another room, and they called in the entire office staff and encouraged them to point their fingers at me and tell me how bad I am and the attitude that I give everybody. Most of the people were kind of stunned by that because they didn't have issues with me. But like I said before, this was all because of something my former friend had made up. But the way I was treated was with such disrespect, and I felt so awful. I had never felt that small before. And I just wanted to crawl under a rock and die. It was really awful. After that day, I knew that I had to change my life, that I couldn't keep going the way I was going. I spent that entire summer working at home. So I would go to the job, spend 8 hours there, get home, and then spend another 8 hours working online. I found a few things that worked, but they were never bringing in enough income to even get me out of that job. The time the fall came along, which was about 5 months after the first meeting, I actually ended up getting called into the office and then fired for no reason at all. I had never been fired in my entire life, and I, once again, was flabbergasted. I'm still stunned by it to this day. I really am. After losing my job, things just continued to decline for me. Couldn't find a new job, and I really didn't want one. I was trying to make it my mission to work for myself and never work for anybody else again. But at the same time, I still had to look for a job because I had no income coming in. So I continued looking for work online and was not having much luck. And I became really depressed, and sometimes I couldn't get out of bed. So one day I find this opportunity online. I decided to look into it. And I was really excited about the possibilities. Now, I was very skeptical of this because of what had happened to me before. So I decided to do it. There was a lot of training to do, and I didn't go through any of the training because I just kind of became overwhelmed by things because this is something I had never done before. I knew nothing about this business. So I had to kind of convince myself, okay, you got to get involved. The possibilities were endless. That this was something that would not only help me in this particular business, but could actually help me in my entertainment career as well. And I loved the idea of it. Without doing any training, I decided to just start. It's the day before New Year's Eve, actually, to post my first ad. So I posted an ad on Craigslist, and it took me about 20 minutes because I kept going through it and making sure it was right, and I liked the way it looked. And then I posted it. So I walked away from the computer. I came back about 20 minutes later, and I made a sale. It proved something to me. I had lost all hope. I had lost my job. I was depressed all the time. My film career, I could never get it to that next level. I could never reach success at anything that I did. And I didn't think it was possible for me. And then finally here was hope. Real hope. The other part that amazed me was that it took me 20 minutes to do that. 20 minutes of work. And yet I got paid $80. That just blew me away. Never in any job that I've done, any time in my life, did I ever get paid that much money for something that took me 20 minutes. I knew that I was on my way. After that, I continued to make sales, and I just knew that finally I had found something that works for just an ordinary guy like me who had a dream and who wanted to be successful. The other great part about this business that I've learned is that everybody helps each other. It's a big part of it. And it's also about changing your mindset, which for me, that's been a challenge. I lived a life of a lot of negativity, Never really positive about anything because I just have too many bad things happen, too much bad luck. So, it's very hard to convince me that things could get better. And yet, this here, it's not only about making, a great amount of money and having a decent income, and, it's also about changing the way you look at life and changing the way you feel and think about things. It is great to live a life with, hope, and it's also amazing to live a life with freedom. And that I would not trade for anything in the world. I wake up when I want, I go to bed when I want. If I don't feel like working one day, I don't have to. And I don't have to call a boss and ask for permission, or, schedule vacation days. I can take a vacation whenever the hell I feel like it. That beats working in a warehouse. There's nothing better than freedom. There really isn't. There's nothing better than freedom.
Today is the day you change your fate. Today is the day you make your dreams come true. Work when you want. Work where you want. Work in the hours you choose. And live a life of true freedom. Simple to learn, simple to do, and the potential to earn hundreds daily. The time is now for you to control your own destiny. DreamBigger.us. Stop dreaming and start earning today.